Okay.
Ooh.
Be careful. Be careful what you say now.
Oh no.
Can be used against you.
Yes. Yes.
Hmm.
Well, tell me where it would be helpful to start.
So Daniel and I, so all this conversation started with Daniel and I starting to read the book Saturate,
Okay.
and so we only went probably like what 2 or 3 chapter into it, and I mean it's a good material, and and I remember like you did you work with them in
Yes.
creating
Yes.
that thing? So we
Yes.
kind of like we were looking into that, and a week later you messaged me and like okay,
Good.
sounds like a thing. So yeah, I mean in our reality this could be a first conversation where
Okay.
you just explain to us a
Okay.
little bit.
Okay. Danilo, have you seen Antonio translated 6 different tools or
Mhm.
documents? Uh,
The PDF that you sent with your email.
yeah,
Yes,
but
yes, I've seen that. I've seen that.
okay. He translated 6 of them though previously.
Mhm.
And so that was the foundation for our discussions. So
Okay,
if you haven't seen the other ones, it would be good to go back and look at those.
okay,
Okay.
okay. Va
It's going
bene.
to be very, very similar to the Saturate book,
Mhm.
Mhm,
but probably a little more simple and a
Mhm.
little more practical in the details.
mhm. Okay.
So that's why I created Missional Made Simple, was
Mhm.
because I was working with many churches around the world, and a consistent theme was it's good, but it's a little complicated.
Mm,
Mhm.
It's
Yeah.
good, but it's a little big, too much.
mm, mhm,
And so
Mhm.
4 years ago, 5 years ago, I started working on making some things more simple
mhm,
so that leaders like you could more easily train the people in your churches to actually live these things.
Mhm.
I work with many churches in South America, South Africa, Eastern Europe, Western Europe, and I think that's a consistent theme.
Mhm.
They like these missional ideas,
mm,
Mhm.
but it's very difficult to go from theory to
Mhm.
mm,
practice.
mm,
So that's my big motivation here with you, because you guys are
mhm,
Mhm.
smart. You guys are smart guys. Okay, I know that.
Yeah.
Okay,
Thanks.
you've got good ideas. You've got good theory. You've got good experience.
Mhm.
But how do you take that and help
Mhm.
more people in your churches actually live every day with more relational intentionality?
Yeah.
mm,
And that's really the challenge. Most
mhm,
Christians around the world struggle with going to work, going to school, living in
Mhm.
their neighborhood with relational intentionality.
mm,
I that's my belief. We
mhm.
don't we
Oh, you're
don't do
right.
it we don't do it so well inside the church,
Mhm.
and we
Mhm.
definitely don't do it well outside the church.
Mm,
So
Mhm.
that's why you see many churches not growing, not changing, not
mm,
influencing,
Mhm.
because of this idea of relational intentionality.
Mhm.
mm,
So many people in your church They go to work every day. They go to school every day. They live in a neighborhood every day, right? It's normal,
Mhm.
normal life, but there's no intentionality in their relationships.
Mm.
So without intentionality, there's not change, there's not influence. Many, many Christians, they know a lot of people, okay?
Mhm.
But they don't have influence in the lives of those people. So would you agree to that? Is that
Yeah.
is that true in Italy generally?
Mhm.
Is that true in your cities? Is that true in your churches? Give me some feedback. And I'd love to hear your perspective, Santo, after being there 1 year now.
Mm. Mm.
So all of you speak to me right now.
Yeah.
Noonsy, give me some perspective.
Doesn't like bothering you. Okay.
Mhm.
So I'm basically asking the general situation
Ah,
in the
yes,
churches, in
yes.
Italy, in your city, your church specifically.
Mhm. Yes, it is. It's very, very hard to have intentionality. Uh, it's maybe it's the culture or the personalities.
Okay.
There are many, many factors. It's very rare to find someone that really understands the need, the importance of being intentional when trying to disciple or yeah, be like even be in touch with brothers and or
Yes.
sisters in Christ, whatever it is, sharing opinions or
Good.
it's very hard to put Christ at the center of the meeting or the conversation.
Okay. Good. All of you say more. So that was very good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I would say that yeah, also yeah, the intentionality factor it's lacking even in our culture, I would say. In our church also. Well, maybe that could be because many people will say that they are way too busy with life, which means like, you know, with work and raising families. See,
Yep.
I don't know. That,
Yep.
yeah, with, you know, just daily life.
Daily life.
And so that's yeah. Sometimes it stems from just really not having times or poor scheduling. I don't know. I don't know. But yeah.
Okay. Danilo, Santo, what would give me some more?
Mhm. I would say that the situation wasn't good before the pandemic, but now after the pandemic is even worse.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, and I think some problem are very cultural. Like, you know, there is this saying that your dirty clothes need to be washed inside your house, inside your family. And then there is also this other thinking of, you know, the bella figura. So like you need to show the best thing of yourself to others, and this happens also in the church. Many people come on Saturday morning with their best clothes, and everything is good, but then when you're trying to dig a little bit in their lives, you can discover that there are a lot of problems, but they're afraid to talk, and they're not willing to open up. And I think that there is a lack of emotional intelligence in many people.
Okay.
They don't deal with that. They don't know how to deal with their own emotions, and to speak about the emotions, and that, so these had an impact on their spiritual maturity.
Okay, very, very helpful to hear that. Very, very insightful. Let me hear from Santo. You don't have to say anything, Santo, but if you have anything to add to what's already been said.
My perspective obviously is different because I'm coming as an Italian American, and I'm coming for the very purpose of being intentional and building relationships
Yeah,
in and outside the church. But also, because of who I am, my calling, where I've been, for some reason, the Lord brings people into my life and I'm able to connect. So for me, it's more of a sinful, sometimes I'm like, oh, if I go too far down this road, this guy, that's hours every week. Yeah, you understand what I'm saying? It's hard to believe that I would think like that, but so like, talk to somebody in a grocery store, before I know it, the guys invite me to his house, that he's a musician, he wants to jam with me, now we jam weekly with another musician guy, and this guy happens to be homosexual, and that just, I'm like, okay, this is an interesting situation, and calls me up to have coffee, and sometimes, and it's that kind of thing. Couple that I met in a pizzeria, and off hours, they asked me to go to an American restaurant with them to give tips to their friend who owns. So I mean, but in terms
Yeah.
of the depth, for sure, I don't disagree with anything everybody said. And I do think you're right in terms of it's a mentality of being relational and intentional about it, and also how am I going to eventually get to Christ?
good,
For me, in a natural way. I,
good.
I've known the Lord since '86. The unnatural thing of just roughly smacking people. I mean, God uses it sometimes, but yeah, I mean, I've definitely the Bella Figura, where they want to keep the best,
Best face.
Yeah.
And I'm also blessed with many, many cousins and that I'm actually pretty close to, and we do talk
Yeah.
heart to heart. So,
Yeah.
so I get some extra, what's the word for it? What's the word I'm looking for? Whereas other people, they don't have that same experience
Yeah,
of going,
yeah,
so even though they're my cousins, they were strangers, right? And then right away we went, oh.
yeah. Yeah,
But the language is more of a barrier on my end.
right,
So I'm
right.
struggling to be better at the language.
Yeah.
Oh, and my neighbors next door, they're constantly inviting me places and, which is great. It's great. So, but I mean, I guess this whole thing, obviously you want to see the people in the church with that same exact perspective, that missional perspective. I'm a missionary, so I kind of think like that.
Yeah.
But that's
Yeah.
not. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Sorry, that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
No,
I
that's
think,
that's what I wanted to hear. Let me say something. Your last comment, Santo, is critical here. Critical for all of you. Santo said he's there as a missionary. Every person in your church needs to have that same mindset. It's not because of where you live. It's not because of where you came from. This is part of our God-given identity as his children. Like it's that deep. This is actually what Christ died for. He died to make us his brothers and sisters. He died to make us God's children. That's the big part of why he went to the cross. Like it's that significant.
Mhm.
So we've got to talk about this often with our people. Again, Santo, you said it's a mentality.
Mhm.
A better description, it's actually an identity. It's an identity of every Christian. It's an identity for every Christ follower, every disciple, is that they are missionaries. They are sent by Jesus for his purposes. At the coffee shop, in the neighborhood, with other musicians, when you go to the marketplace, when you go to school, when you go to your job, when you walk your dog, when you go watch some good football, proper football. Okay.
Not
Everywhere we go as followers of Jesus, we go there as his sent ones. So going back to the first things we said, and even what you were saying, Danilo, is that's something we've got to get rooted in the hearts of our people. Their identity as missionaries. I think we can use the language of ambassadors, which Paul used. We can use the language of witnesses, which Jesus used. You will be my witnesses. Paul said, you are ambassadors. In John 20, Jesus said, as I have been sent, I am sending you. So sometimes I like the language of we are sent ones or missionary. Okay, all of those things describe not activity to do, but identity about who we are. See, if people get this rooted in their hearts, they will live differently. If you wake up in the morning and you believe this is part of your identity, you'll go to work differently because you see the workplace as mission field. Or maybe you're a student, you're going to school today, you're going to university today. You go there as a student to learn, but you also go there as a missionary, as a sent one, as an ambassador, as a witness for Jesus. When you go to the marketplace, like Santo described, or you go out in the city, go to a coffee shop, you go there as a sent one. That's what we see Jesus doing with his disciples throughout the Gospels. They just live normal life, really. They ate meals with people. They organized parties with people. They went to weddings. They went just out in the city to the market, just normal life. But they went there with an intentionality. So that this doesn't, Jesus wasn't organizing some big program. We see a few times where he organized a big event. Okay, the feeding of the 5,000, and a few other times were big church events. Okay, big programs. But most of the time it was just very normal life. At the market, in people's homes, out in nature, in the fields by a lake. So that's what we've got to get. That's what we've got to get changed in the hearts of our people, is this mindset and this heart conviction that every day of their life is mission. Mission is not something that happens once a month when Antonio organizes it at the church. Mission is not one time every 3 months when Danilo organizes a big event at the church. It's not that. Mission is every day because we are missionaries. We are sent every day, everywhere. So I wanted to go back to something you said, Danilo, because this is a big, I think both of you said it, just the busyness of people, right?
Mhm.
People talk about being too busy.
Yeah.
That doesn't make sense practically. Okay, tell me what people are busy with. Tell me.
Jobs?
Jobs,
Family.
Children.
family, children,
Yeah.
Activities in general, like
shopping,
yeah, shopping.
okay,
Hobby.
eating, cooking, okay,
Mm.
okay.
Maybe
That's what makes people busy, right?
Right.
Well, guess what? In everything you described, there's people all around.
Mhm.
In the middle of your busyness, it's filled with people. In the middle of your busyness, it's filled with mission. In the middle of your busyness, it's filled with an opportunity to influence for Jesus. So when people tell you that they're busy, you should say, perfect. That's perfect. You're busy. You're busy and you're in the middle of people. You have lost people all around you in the middle of your busyness.
Mm.
And a few Christians in the middle of your busyness. So let's not talk about busyness. Let's talk about how can we bring intentionality to our busyness. You have children. Well, what do your children do? Well, your children need to go to the park, right? Your children need exercise. They need fresh air. Well, when you go to the park, who is there? Lost people. People far from Jesus.
Mm.
So when you go to the park with your children so they can get fresh air and they can get exercise, just changing your mindset, the mentality a little bit to say we're going to the park with our children and it's mission.
Mm.
It's a mission field. There's lost people at the park. There's lost people at the market. When I walk my dog in the neighborhood, there's lost people there.
Mm.
So that's what we see Jesus doing with the disciples.
Mm.
They were also surrounded by very busy people. People that were trying to survive, people that were working in the fields, trying to support their family, shopping and cooking and cleaning and doing all those normal things. It was the same for Jesus. So Jesus went into the busyness, but with a relational intentionality to build trust with people and then to speak about the kingdom.
Mm.
Okay, when you hear that, what do you think? What do you hear? What do you feel? Danilo, start with you.
Yeah, I totally agree, and I think that one of the main challenge in my conversation with people is to help them to understand that so they don't have to think that their ministry is just do some kind of service in the church.
Yeah.
But your main ministry is your profession, is your work, is your family, is your whatever it is outside the church during the week.
Good.
And but I think there is this difficulty to overcome for many. There is, this clear separation between what is holy, what is
Yes.
the ministry, what is
Yes.
the
Yes.
Christian life, and what is the rest of the normal life, the daily life, the not worthy, not
Yes.
not holy, not Christian. And
Yes.
it's kind of like they have two identities and they have to live two different lives. And they don't know that it's just one life.
Yes. Good. Good. It's one life. Perfectly said. It's one life. And when we wake up every morning, we have the same identity. We have the same identity. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Same identity. Same expectation from Jesus. Same goal from Jesus. And to put it very simply, I think those are the two biggest goals is that we live like family inside the church, and we go like missionaries outside the church. Let me say something about that family idea, because Danilo, you commented, well, what was that word again, where people put on a good
Bella
Bella
figura.
figura. Bella
okay,
figura.
I like that word, but I cannot pronounce it. I like how it sounds, okay? But that's another thing that must change in your churches. That is not a biblical concept. That is not a gospel motivated idea.
That's for sure.
The gospel, Jesus' work for us, when we become united with Jesus, we take on his, how do you say it again? Pagura?
Bella figura.
Figura.
Bella figura.
Bella figura.
His beautiful figure, right?
Yeah,
Literally.
Good job.
Beautiful figure. Bella figura. We take on his bella figura. The old has gone, the new has come. The old is past, the old bella figura has gone. The new bella figura we take on is that of Jesus. That's a really big idea. Because if that's true, now we can be open and we can be vulnerable and we can talk about, you talked about emotional intelligence, Danilo. I agree. I agree that many Christians struggle with this because of a false idea about bella figura. It's not a biblical idea to say I must look good for others. I must show others a good face. That's just not it's actually quite sad. Because they're not living in the reality that Jesus has made them new, has made them righteous. that actually their bella figura is his, not their own.
Hmm.
So when that changes in your people, they will begin to speak like family and relate like family and be open like family and talk about their struggles like family. Again, when I say family, I mean good family, healthy family. Okay? I don't know about your family growing up. My family was not healthy.
Hmm.
My father was not a believer. We did not have good communication. So I grew up in a broken, very broken family. So
Hmm.
when we talk about family, we need to talk about healthy family, biblical family, gospel motivated family. Okay. But that's one of the big identities, one of the big callings for the church is to relate and communicate and support and encourage each other inside the church like family so that we can grow up in Christ, so that we can go to work and go to school and live in our neighborhood and Santo hang out with musicians
Mhm.
like Jesus.
Somebody's got to do it.
I know. And somebody's got to eat good food with non-Christians. And somebody's got to organize good parties with non-Christians. And somebody's got to watch
Right.
good football with non-Christians. But that's who we are. It's not a program. It's not an activity. It's not an event.
Hmm.
That's who we are as sons and daughters. It's who we are as brothers
Can
and
I,
sisters.
can I throw something in real quick?
Please.
So this is something over the years that's, you know, it's always been, I don't want to use the word struggle, but I guess a struggle in some ways. So I think it's Dietrich Bonhoeffer that said, only a brother under the cross can hear a confession from another brother, you know, in the family. And I think that's why it's so vital to really continue to preach and expound on the gospel in the church.
Yeah.
Because for you to be vulnerable, open means that people understand that they also are broken and they also are in desperate need of grace daily, and that they don't have, you know, a foot to stand on apart from Jesus's righteousness.
Good.
And so they're not shocked by your confession. I mean, that's as pastors, right? Those of us who are pastors, we can never show shock. And I was a pastor in Atlantic City, New Jersey, the inner city, and people would say things that take the paint off your car, and they act like they're telling you what they just ate for breakfast, and you're like, oh my goodness, that's insane. But of course, you're like, oh, see. But I think that sometimes can be a deterrent.
Oh,
Why people may want to keep on the Bella Figura is because as soon as I let this down, some Pharisaical or some self-righteous brother here is going to start preaching to me and tell me, you know, rather than come alongside in my brokenness, listen before they start, you know, pointing out all my flaws, which I just opened up to you about. It's
Yeah.
like, I already know this.
Yeah.
Does this make any sense to you? I just feel like this is
totally.
like
Very good. Very good. And let me say to your point, Santo, I like it. Um, yes, we must. Again, this is the Bella Figura. That it sounds like this is a really big thing you must solve, you must fix, you must heal.
Hmm.
Because if you don't, you will not experience the church as family. But back to your point, Santo, what is lacking in the lives of many Christians, whether it's New Jersey or California or around Italy, is the gospel understanding that we are completely forgiven
Mm.
All of the insane things, Santo, forgiven. Crazy things, forgiven. Terrible things, forgiven. That's the that's what's that's what's such good news about the gospel. That's what's so shocking about Jesus' work on the cross,
Mm.
is that the grace of Jesus is actually that big. Jesus' work on the cross is actually that good, that powerful, that complete.
Mm.
All of the crazy things, all of the insane things, all of it. He died. He died so that all of that could be forgiven, all of that could be healed, all of that could be made new. So we stand before each other as brothers and sisters
Mm.
with a perfect bella figura.
Mhm.
I think you need to do some preaching and teaching on that this year. Seriously, seriously. And I think not just you need to preach and teach well, but you also need to, in your smaller groups, you need to have these discussions and say, man, let's talk bella figura. Are we living under a false bella figura? Are we living under a proper bella figura that Jesus died for, that Jesus made new, that Jesus gave us? We are brothers and sisters with Jesus. We actually preached about this last Sunday in my church. So this theme is perfect. Okay, literally what 3 days ago. This was the big idea in my church. We have a new identity in Jesus, a new bella figura. As his family, as his brothers and sisters. You know what else Paul says at one point, which is crazy. I think it's in Romans, where we are co-heirs with Jesus. You want to talk crazy? That it makes no sense. How's that possible? That you and I, could be co-heirs with Jesus. That's how good, that's how right, that's how perfect the Bella Figura is. So when we get that right, can you imagine how it would change our relationships inside the church, but also outside the church? So you go to work every day completely secure, nothing to prove, no boss to impress. You go to work every day, you go to school every day, you live in your neighborhood every day, free, secure, made new, co-heirs with Jesus. So, man, now you can love people radically. Man, now you can extend grace radically. Now you can be radically generous. Because of your identity and who you are in Christ. So this isn't just some big theological idea. This isn't some big theory. This is very practical. You've got to get your people rooted in their identity. So then they will go live their daily lives practically different. They'll go to work differently, go to school differently, live in the neighborhood differently, go to the coffee shop differently, go shopping differently. Okay. So I'm really, in this conversation, I'm really emphasizing the why. Okay.
Mhm.
I think we should have a second call and a second conversation, and we can talk about the how.
Mm.
But you can't talk about the how without being clear about the why.
Mhm. Mhm.
If you talk about the how, and this is a problem in many churches, believe me, they want to talk about the how, the magic structure, the magic strategy. They want to talk about the how that will grow their church. But the how part is actually much more simple than the why part. The why is much more difficult
Mm.
because because the why is something of the heart.
Mm.
And we know that people's hearts are distracted.
Hmm.
People's hearts easily are filled with sin
Mhm.
and with self.
Hmm.
So the bigger work in your churches, the bigger work of discipleship, the bigger work of mission is work of the heart.
Ah.
If people's hearts do not change in the ways we're talking about here, they will not be good family.
Mm.
You can put a perfect structure in place. You
Mhm.
can have a perfect strategy and it will be without fruit.
See?
If the hearts of your people do not change, and if the hearts of your people are not motivated by the gospel and not motivated by their identity as sons and daughters,
Mhm.
as brothers and sisters with each other and with Jesus. So as a family that then are sent into daily life as ambassadors, witnesses, sent ones, missionaries. So let's organize a second call and we will talk about, okay, we're clear about the why.
Mhm.
It's heart, it's gospel, it's identity. Okay, clear about the why. So then we can work practically on a bit of structure and a bit of planning
Mhm.
about the how. Okay,
Okay.
let me say one more practical thing about family and the bella figura. You will know when that is changing. You will know when people are growing, when people increasingly will share their stories. And I
Mhm.
talk with churches about this all the time. You must get into the rhythm and the practice of going deep into each other's stories.
Mhm.
You meet for coffee, talk about each other's life story. Santo, tell me about where you grew up, how you grew up. Tell me about your siblings. Tell me about your parents. What were your friends like when you were a teenager? What were the highlights of your life? What were the struggles of your life? Let's talk about all those things. Because when we know each other's stories in those deep details, we will be able to help each other more, encourage each other more, speak the truth of the gospel to each other more accurately,
Mm.
pray more specifically,
Mm.
because I know your relationship with your father is broken. Your relationship with your mother is broken. Your relationship with your youngest sibling is broken. Because I know those things in your story, I will be able to pray differently for you. I will be able to encourage you differently. I will be able to challenge you differently. We must get deep into each other's stories to be good family. But you know what? You can do that all the time. You can do that watching football. You can do that drinking coffee. You can do that at the park. You can do that over a meal. You can do that at a birthday party,
You could do that playing pool.
playing pool. You can do that playing guitar. You can do that. You get it. So think about this idea of becoming people that focus on each other's stories. So that's how we become deep, committed family inside the church. Next time we talk, next time we meet, we will talk about how do you do that same story focus thing with non-Christians.
Mhm.
Okay.
Same idea. Same idea. How do we get to know the stories of the lost, broken, homosexual? Doesn't matter. How do we get to know those? Because that homosexual, Santo, that person has broken parts of their story, which produced the sin and the brokenness in their life. Broken relationships in the past, broken decisions in the past, created their current broken life. So it doesn't matter if the brokenness is sexual, doesn't matter if the brokenness is financial, doesn't matter if the brokenness is alcohol or drugs, doesn't matter if the brokenness is pornography, doesn't matter if the brokenness is anger, doesn't matter if the brokenness is greed. That brokenness came from some place in their story. Didn't happen yesterday. It happened many days ago. When they were a child, when they were a teenager, when they were in university. That's when those things became broken that are producing that broken fruit today. Hey, I love talking with you. Very good conversation.
Thank you so much.
Yes, I must go to another meeting, but now we have this recording, so I will send it to you. Maybe it'll be helpful to watch with some of your other leaders.
Yep.
Okay.
Do we want to, Todd, do we want to discuss about the next date, maybe on over email?